All right, welcome into episode 6 of D&D's two-man game. I am Dom. You're Dom. I did it wrong already.
And
Um,
this is Damon. Hello. How are
I was,
you
I
doing
was,
today,
I was
Dom?
thinking, what am I gonna say next? And, then I was thinking, how are you doing today, Dom? So
The
then I
the
said,
theater
I am Dom.
major. The theater major,
I don't know.
everyone.
I don't know how to do this before. Um, Yeah, we're on episode 6, more than one hand. Gotta have two hands if you want to count our episodes now. So,
Two-man game, two
I
hands.
am Damon. This is Dom. How are you, Dom?
My name's Dom, and I'm good. I'm feeling good. Um, not a lot of news in the NBA, but still always something to talk about. But how are you doing, Damon, before we get into more things?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a Monday evening for context for our viewers out there. So we recorded our last episode just 4 days ago, and this is 2 days after that episode actually released. So this will come out 4 days from this recording date. So yeah, well, no, it is five. Wait, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is 5 days.
Never second guess yourself.
Yeah. Uh, So, if there's any crazy breaking news that we don't talk about, it's because we recorded this podcast 5 days early.
And if you want to blame anyone, blame me because I'm a
Blame both of
busy
us.
boy.
There's no
But
blame.
no blame, all love. But so I don't know. All our viewers probably noticed I'm not wearing a jacket today because I am not cold. So no shirt
True.
reveal, although we are wearing basketball related shirts. Though mine's not technically NBA related, not an NBA team. It is still
It's a
NBA related.
it's a basketball podcast. I'm an NBA podcast.
Thank you for that because the two-man game is also in college basketball.
And European
Anyways,
basketball.
yes. So I wore my UCLA basketball shirt and I have my UCLA mug.
Repping
Uh,
UCLA today.
Damon, what are you wearing? What are you wearing?
Yeah, I am wearing my Filipino Heritage Rocket shirt that I got from Filipino Heritage Night at the Rockets game for $12, like my Lunar New Year shirt that I wore and my Black History Month shirt that I've worn on this podcast. All these shirts I got for $12 at Rockets games because I always have like an item of the game or whatever. So that's why I own so many Rockets shirts. If listeners or I guess watchers, because listeners you can't really see, but
Yeah, well,
check
I
us
do
out
like
on YouTube.
I do like any shirt that they do at the Rockets game that is not a typical color. Like
Mhm.
it's always gonna usually it's red, white, or black, but I love when they do like blue. And I wore the green one a few episodes ago, and I love that one. Just anything a little bit different than
Right.
something was really cool.
Feels more special.
Absolutely. So we revealed our shirts. What are we going to talk about today, Damon? Because there hasn't been a lot of progress since last time we talked. We went over FIBA, which starts this weekend, so we'll cover that next time. And like the actual tournament exhibitions have still been happening,
Anthony Edwards
but
went off.
Anthony Edwards went off. Another reason, I mean, call back to when I said he was one of my favorite players to watch right now. So
Mhm. We're gonna talk about
um,
that guy later today.
we are going to bring him up later today. So, not a lot of FIBA news. Nothing with the only really thing I guess is that the NBA is putting together an investigation into the James Harden
Mm-hmm.
allegations, but there's no news anything yet about that. Just
Right,
that they're going to look into it.
right.
The Daryl Morey, James Harden calling him a liar twice in like 15 seconds.
Yeah, very random.
Yeah, so we'll cover that, when more news comes out. But I think we're going to talk about something today that we had a lot of fun doing last time, and I think I know as a listener, I really enjoy when other people I like listening to talk about these kind of stuff. So, Damon, what are we going to talk about today? Who
Uh,
are we going to talk about?
yeah, so today we are going to attempt to rank the top 30 shooting guards in the NBA. Well, not necessarily the top 30, but the starting shooting guard of every NBA roster. Some have some really good sixth men, but last time we did point guards, and like Dom said, we had a lot of fun with that. I had a lot of fun with that. I told him that I think that was maybe my favorite episode doing so far because I just liked kind of getting into it and breaking it down into tiers how we did, then trying to rank them. Just had a lot of fun overall. Um, this one was weird so far. I know it's only been out for 2 days. The Spotify statistics on that I think has like one listen, And then the YouTube views have like 6 YouTube views, but our episode 4, the episode before that, has no YouTube views. So I'm like, I don't understand how that's happening. If it's random people, if it's people that specifically looked it up, I'm not sure. Um,
Well, whoever's listening, regardless,
Thank you.
we thank you.
Yeah,
Hello.
YouTube and Spotify, it's the only places we currently exist, really. So
For
check
now.
us out on either or, on both, whatever you desire. If you're a listener because you're cleaning, driving, totally get that. Um, but if you want to check out our shirts and our tier list that we're doing, that kind of requires a visual aid to help you out, come on over to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, or on Spotify, you can also watch the video there.
I
But we're
forgot that I put the video on Spotify too.
I love that because I love that when I watch some Spotify podcasts have that.
I have
Um,
never watched a podcast on Spotify.
there's only one. It's not any basketball related, but it's the It's Always Sunny podcast. They will put like the video on there, which is pretty cool because they're not very good at like they very much know that they're being filmed, so they kind of play to the audience in that way.
Mm.
They forget that there are some people just listen. So
Yeah,
it's nice to listen and watch.
I do
But
do forget that the video's on there.
yeah,
Sorry,
well, this one is definitely one, if you're listening, is one just to take a glance at if you're driving, be safe. But definitely just to kind of look at maybe every now and then just to see where we're
yeah,
at.
maybe take a look at the end and be like, oh, okay, I see the tiers. Get that visual aid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So Damon, walk us through real quick the tiers and how we're going to be doing this, the kind of rules that we set up
yeah,
from
so
last
we
time.
we talked about this in the point guard video. So if you haven't heard that or watched that, be sure to check it out. But basically, we have here tiers from S to F. So S, A, B, C, D, F. And basically, S tier, that's going to be the top of the top. F tier, the bottom, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're an F tier player. Obviously, every player in the NBA is extremely talented, otherwise they wouldn't be in the NBA. It just means when we're comparing starting shooting guards in the NBA, this person is on the lower end. And unfortunately, the way the letter grades break out, that's just the letter associated with it. Obviously, there's kind of a stigma around that, but we said it a lot last time. We do not hate these players or think they're bad. It's just when I compare them to everyone else in the chart, they fall a little short. And then what Dom and I did last time is we put 5 players in each tier, just to kind of make it even. So 30 shooting guards, every team with the starter. 6 tiers, 5 in each. 6 times 5, for those of you that know basic math, is 30. So yeah, that is kind of how it is going to go. And then a big stipulation on this that we said a lot during the Point Guard podcast is we are not ranking these players based on how they did last season, because we think that would be really easy. Instead, we are trying to project how these players are going to finish this upcoming season. So yeah, it's not just, oh, this player averaged 25, 10, and 5. They're S tier. No, it's how do we think that player is going to perform in the upcoming season? Um, are they going to jump? Are they going to regress a little bit? Are they going to stay consistent? We will see. So that's how we're doing it, and it's not in any particular order. It's kind of just a randomized list of guys here. So sorry if you wanted your, big market teams first or something like that. We're just gonna kind of wing it and go little by little. We're not doing it in tier order. We're not doing it in any order. Just random faces.
Could not have said it better myself. Although I do want to mention, I love how big Mikal Bridges is in this.
Yeah,
His picture is almost twice as big as Kyrie, who's right next to him, which is so
him and
funny
Paul
to me.
George both kind of have
Yeah,
big
they're
pictures.
both
I
just
I
like
don't know why.
I like to imagine that they actually aren't like blown up, like that's just how big they are right next to them.
Yeah, we
Um,
kind of last time we had a different tier list that had like 45 to 50 names, and we just kind of pick and chose the people we assume are going to be the starting point guards, and there were a couple players that didn't have a picture.
mhm.
But this one we looked at and it was like, okay, this looks like a really fairly accurate list of the starting shooting guards across the NBA. No, I didn't make this list; I just found it. So
Yeah. Yeah, but it looks good. Like we both reviewed it and went through it, and I think we're ready to get started. What do you think, Damon?
Um, oh my God, my hands are so sweaty. Yeah, I'm definitely ready to get started with Terry Rozier. So
Take it away, my man.
yeah, we used Terry Rozier's picture to represent CJ McCollum in our point guard tier list because CJ McCollum wasn't on there.
He's
Uh,
back. He's back.
and
He's
he's back
back.
again. So it's always hard with the first couple of people because once you kind of get into it, I think and move people around, and that's another thing I should have said. We will move people around as the tier list goes on. It's not, if I put this player in the C tier right now, it's not he's in the C tier forever. As we add players on there, it'll kind of even out.
Yep.
But I'm looking at the list of everybody before I even start. I see a lot of good players here. Um, I think Terry Rozier is kind of underrated. Um, he's had a couple of like 15 to 20 point game seasons
Mhm.
with the Hornets. I know originally he was on the Celtics coming off the bench, and then he signed a kind of a big contract to the Hornets, and people were
Yeah.
like, "Why?" But I think he's been pretty good there. Obviously, they've been kind of rebuilding his whole time there, not making much of an impact. But I think he himself as an individual player is fine. Probably ideally would be like a sixth man or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, kind of scorer off the bench. He is kind of undersized. It's tough. It's tough. I want to say for now, I'll do benefit of the doubt. I want to say C,
Okay.
but I was in between C and D.
Yeah,
Um,
that's where I'm at. I like Terry Rozier too, and he's had like highlight moments, and he is one of the names people talk about on the Hornets. He's one of the bright spots on the Hornets, right?
mhm.
Um, and they never really had to worry about shooting guard minutes because he's been there. And I like him as a player. He's a little undersized, and I mean he's getting a little bit older, right? Like early 30s, I think.
I don't think he's that old. I would guess that he's 28. He's 29.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like he's a name I've heard around about a lot. Just like I've just heard about him for years, so I guess I assumed he was a little bit older. But I'm good with C tier for now. I was thinking D tier, but I have a feeling he might get moved around just a little bit.
Yeah,
But again, good player, like one of the bright spots in the Hornets lineup for sure, but it's just maybe not better than some other players here.
yeah.
Like the next person, Buddy Heald.
Great
Buddy
segue.
Heald, who's thank you. I'm learning. I'm getting the hang of this podcast stuff. So Buddy Heald, who's a starting shooting guard for the Pacers, was traded from the Kings with Tyrese Halliburton. I like Buddy Heald quite a bit, and I know my Lakers he's been in trade rumors with them for years. And obviously, there's a good reason why. He has a great, very high like 3-point percentage. He can play defense. He's a little bit on the older side, so I mean, maybe when his prime like King Pelicans days, he'd be a little bit you know, higher. But personally, for me, if we're gonna put Terry Rozier in C, I was either gonna put Buddy Hield in like high C or low B. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I looked at Buddy Hield after I talked about Terry Rozier, and I said, that guy is a great role player and like a winning
Mm-hmm.
player. I feel his, one
Yep.
of the best shooters in the NBA,
Yep.
um, hands down. I do think he has a higher impact on winning than Terry Rozier.
Yes.
So I would say he's definitely above Terry Rozier. Um, maybe above him in the C tier. Maybe Terry eventually gets moved down to the D tier.
Yeah.
I feel like B tier. I mean, I am thinking about the point guard video, and point guard is such a loaded position. I feel like
Yeah.
B tier had some like really, really good players.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe shooting guard is a little different. Maybe it's not as deep. Well, I guess we'll see as the list goes on.
Yeah, these people will move around, but I'm cool with Buddy Hield staying high C, and then he might move to lower B or we'll figure it out. But how do you feel about this next guy that we're going to talk about?
Yeah. Next is DeJounte Murray for the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's a good backcourt mate with Trae Young. Trae Young, often known as one of the worst defenders in the NBA. DeJounte Murray, one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. So a very good complementary guard. And also I think can take some of the ball handling duties away from Trae Young, which is good. Trae Young, this is not a Trae Young ranking, but hopefully Trae Young can improve his off-ball movement. I think we talked about that a little bit.
You did mention that. Yeah, that's, you said, like, the biggest defining characteristic difference between Steph and Trey is that Trey
Right,
just doesn't move.
right.
Yeah,
Has to be a threat off the ball, which hopefully with DeJounte handling the ball more, that will develop. Um,
absolutely.
and they only had 1 year together. He just signed a contract extension that I think was pretty good value. He has but made an All-Star game. When I'm looking at Buddy Hield and Terry Rozier in the C tier, I definitely want to put DeJounte Murray above them in the B tier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree. Buddy Hield, great role player, does his job very well, can play decent defense, but DeJounte is just a tier above, might I say. Buddy, and just that he can handle the ball. He is like one of the, if not the first option, second option on, on a team. If he's hot, then Trey can kind of take a break, and DeJounte can just get the job done and make winning plays and whatnot. So I do agree that DeJounte would be in B tier, and I'm looking forward to this year with the Hawks too, just seeing this backcourt, do more, hopefully.
Yeah, I
And now,
definitely agree.
since we talked about, really good players in the backcourt, I'm trying all these segues. We'll see how they do. But this player, one of my favorite players to watch, signed the biggest, or maybe it's not the biggest extension anymore because of Anthony Davis, but it at one time was the biggest extension
Yeah,
super max in the history of the NBA, and that's Jaylen Brown.
yeah.
Um,
Talk to me.
Jaylen Jaylen Brown, such a high ceiling. I really love the play between him and Jason Tatum, and I know people will always have that argument. Oh, are they able to win a championship together? I think absolutely. I just think that they haven't been in the cards yet for them.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean they've made deep playoff runs over them.
exactly, and consistently. So Jaylen Brown is definitely a player, winning plays, starting role. He's just going to get better. I know there was trade rumors that Rockets were trying to trade for Jaylen Brown. I was really excited about that possibility, but he got a super max. He got his bag. He's in Boston. He's happy. That's all I care about. I do want to say S tier, but because there's so many other amazing players, I'll say A tier.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I was thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, it's tough looking at everyone else here, but for me, he's someone that might have the possibility to move up. And I'm just thinking about next year, like, I think the Celtics really have something they want to prove it, especially now he wants to, like, show that he deserves that money.
Yeah, when you sign, like you said, what was the biggest extension in NBA history, you hope you have a top, 5 guy at his position. A tier would be 6 through 10, of course. So right outside that, we'll see as the list goes on. And again, we're projecting, so some of these players may be surprising by the time we get to the end of it. But I do agree with you. I think Jaylen Brown is a very good player. Has the two-way capability, which I think is really important. His can create his own shots. Struggles a little bit at creating for others, I think. Which it's shooting guards we're ranking here, so not all of them have great playmaking chops. Um, but yeah, I think when I'm looking at DeJounte and B tier, I think Jaylen Brown is at least a step above. So I would agree with A, at least possibility of moving up to S, depending on where the rest of the rankings fall.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but this next player also has that same feeling
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
The next shooting guard here is Donovan Mitchell. When I think Donovan Mitchell and I think shooting guards, I think about the last 4 or 5 years in the NBA. And I think basically the shooting guard argument has been who's the best shooting guard? Is it Donovan Mitchell or is it this player that we'll talk about later? Um, and I think, there's definitely some truth in that. He had success early in his career. He is still young. He's like 26, 27. He's always led his team to the playoffs, even when he was a rookie on the Jazz. He led his team to the playoffs. He had the crazy bubble where he scored a ton of points, but they ended up losing in 7 to the Nuggets. Um, but he's kind of a consistent player. Uh, Not really had to worry about a ton of injuries or anything like that. He's kind of there all year. He is a little undersized, 6'1", I think, 6'2" maybe. So that's pretty small for a shooting guard. But he is a great scorer at all three levels, and his playmaking has gotten better over the years. Um, Especially playing by like Mike Conley in Utah, and now Darius Garland. He's playing by some good facilitators. I think he's picking up on some of that, and he can defend when he tries. He was good at it in college. In the NBA, he's kind of struggled. He is kind of small, but he's kind of big for his height. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of bulky a
yeah,
bit.
kind of stocky. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah.
So when it kind of gets down to the nitty-gritty, I think he can try. All that being said, um, I don't really see a world where Donovan Mitchell isn't at least the fifth best shooting guard in the NBA. So I'm gonna say he goes right up to S tier.
Um, so I agree with you totally. Also, it would be remiss not to mention the 71-point game.
71 point game, you're totally right.
Crazy. I remember I actually was on my fantasy team and I picked him for that game, if you remember. Um,
Hopefully I
and
wasn't going against you that way.
you were going against me and you said you won this you
Oh,
won this week. I was like, what? And then I looked it up. I said, what the hell
you
just
said what
happened?
is going
I
on?
was like, why does he have so many points? Anyway, so I do agree with everything you said. I think he was my favorite part about the Jazz when they had those runs to the playoffs. He's one of my favorite parts about the Cavs. I think he fits into that system very well. I'm excited to see how they kind of improve upon that because last year was his first year with the Cavs and they were fourth seed, I believe,
Fourth
fourth or
seed, yeah.
fifth. Yeah. So I mean, this year I think they made a lot of great offseason acquisitions. So their ceiling is just higher, and so is Donovan Mitchell. Still, like you said, very young and just so fun to watch too. You know what I mean? Um, but definitely S tier projecting for next year, I believe. One of these, and the next guy we're going to talk about was in a lot of trade rumors this year,
Has been
and,
for it
and has
seems
been
like a
for a
while.
while.
And probably still
Um,
is. Who knows?
and I don't know how to. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say his last name, and you're gonna say it the right way.
Okay.
OG Nabi. I said it wrong.
Close. Close.
Say it.
Ananobi.
Ananobi.
Yeah.
OG Ananobi.
You don't
I
know
like.
do you know his actual first name?
Please tell it. Please
It's a
tell me.
it's a Gugwa.
That's way better than OG.
You're right.
Agugwa. I like that. So I'm gonna call him by his actual name. Agugwa should be. I'm kidding. People like just tune in the middle and be like, "What? Who's Agugwa?
Who are they talk? What are they
What
talking
starting
about?
shooting guard is Agugwa?" And okay, so OG, great basketball player. Love him. Has that defensive tenacity. Still young. Um, is a great. I don't know if I would say he's like an all-star, but I
Mhm.
think he has the capability to be like on a defensive team, all NBA defensive team.
Definitely.
Great role player for what he does. I think that's why he's sought after by so many teams, fits into so many systems. And next year I feel like he's just gonna try and keep proving his worth. He might get traded at some point because I think the Raptors, I think they're gonna go more into a rebuild, but we'll see. I like him a lot. I would put him above Terry Rozier, but maybe just because he's still in the oh, I don't know. I'm looking at like C tier. I'll say he's above Buddy Hield. That's what I would say. But
C tier, but above Buddy Hield.
yeah.
Okay.
What do you think? Because I like his game a lot. I haven't watched a lot of Raptors, but
Yeah.
I what I have seen, he's one of the bright spots. He's very I remember when I watched Raptors Lakers, he was one of the players that really fought. Like you could just see how much he was putting to the game. He didn't just like walk up the court; he ran. He put all of his heart into playing, and I really like when a player does that. Of course,
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about, and like he can fit into any system. Um, he's like the prototypical player that every NBA team wants. He can shoot the three ball. He can defend very well. And he has the size for those kind of wing positions. He's the guy you want to put on, the Jaylen Browns of the world, the
hmm
shot creators wing positions. Um, I believe he was All NBA defensive team this year, second team. And
Right.
he was the steals leader in the NBA. So
Nice. Okay.
his defense is there for sure. Um, I was thinking when you were talking, and I was just thinking about OG. Um, my initial thought was B tier, but below DeJounte Murray. So you saying C
Right.
tier, but above Buddy Hield is basically right around the same area.
Yeah.
It depends what other players end up falling. Um, but I'm fine right now with throwing him in C tier right above Buddy Hield, and then we'll see what
Yeah.
unfolds basically. But I do think,
Absolutely.
I think he's like 25, 26. I can
Mhm.
I can definitely see him taking a jump. Um, especially, Pascal Siakam has been in trade rumors as well. If he goes, then more opportunity opens for the other guys.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And
Very
that's
interesting, George.
something we should have said. This is of course assuming every player is healthy for the year. We can't predict trades and such, but that could change it up.
Yeah, and also we're doing this assuming that they are going to be on the team they're on at this moment.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I don't think nothing else should come up really. I see some jerseys are incorrect for some players,
Yeah,
but
but they're
we'll
already on the
we'll
new
address
team.
that.
Mhm.
But they're on the new team, right? And so Damon, who do you got next? Who do you got next?
One of my favorite players in the NBA. No, next is Grayson Allen of the Milwaukee Bucks, a player that I have um in my private conversations with Dominique has been harsh on, to say the least. Grayson Allen, of course, known to be a dirty player. He has caused injuries. He had a big one. I don't know if it was last year or the year before to Alex Caruso. He like broke his elbow on a play. Um, in college at Duke, he was like notorious for tripping people when he was on the sideline and stuff like that. Um, anyways, that's not what he does on the basketball court. That's just other stuff about Grayson Allen. Um, yeah, he can shoot. He can kind of defend. But I think at a much lesser degree than players like Jaylen Brown, Dejounte Murray, OG Anunoby that we've
Absolutely.
already talked about.
Yeah.
He is definitely the role player. He, in the starting five of the Bucks, he's the fifth guy, right? He's not the other ones. So
Right.
I think he's definitely below everyone that we have in the tier list so far. Um, the question is how far below? And my
Someone has to go in F.
my initial reaction is F tier, because I think there are some players that'll fit in between Terrence here and Grayson Allen. Of course, can always move around later, but for now, I'm gonna plot him right in F tier.
I'm okay with that. And by no means do I think so. I know you mentioned a lot of like the kind of personal stuff, the tripping and
Right.
the dirty play. And so when I've watched the Bucks, I haven't personally seen that, but just from what I've watched of Grayson Allen, he definitely doesn't even to me seem like a starter, like he should be coming off the bench, but the Bucks just need someone to fit in that shooting guard role, kind of
Yeah.
around Giannis and Chris
This don't have a
and
ton of depth.
right. And not to say he's a bad player. Like I like what he does. He can defend and he can shoot. But when you're comparing him to other people on here, like I think he's at his ceiling. You know what I mean? Like this
Right.
is what he was like last year is what he's going to be this year and probably the year after. And he might just get worse, but I don't see him becoming, one of the first three options on a team at any point. So I'm okay with F tier as well. I have a feeling he'll probably stay down there. Not
Yeah,
that he is a bad player again, but just
not the guy like I think to some capacity everyone else we've talked about is either in Buddy Hield's case very very like elite at their role, or in pretty much everyone else's case, um you can put the ball in that player's hands and expect them to create either for themselves or someone else.
yeah,
And I don't think Grayson Allen's that guy.
yeah. I agree. But who is that guy is the next man we're gonna talk about. Anthony Simons, Portland Trailblazers shooting guard. I what is this third year? Third year he's in right now. Like still very young.
I think it's longer. I think it's fourth year.
Oh geez. Okay, I feel like he
I
was just
remember
a
he won
rookie
the
last
dunk
year.
contest like 3
Yeah.
years ago, it felt like.
But Anthony Simons, a little undersized at his role, but he's still very young and has a lot of potential. Although a lot of Trailblazers are
Actually, he's
kind of
going into his sixth year.
No way. You're
He's
lying.
he's only 23 though, but he's going
You're
into his sixth year.
you
Oh,
are
I'm sorry, he's 24. He turned 24 in the offseason.
this makes zero sense to me because I swear when I like in 2020 he was a rookie. I would swear if I
Okay.
if this was a court of law. That's crazy. Okay, so he's
He did
not
not play much until 2021.
okay, then that's maybe why I didn't kind of hear about him or anything. But anyways, watched some Trailblazers basketball and because they play the Lakers and Clippers a lot, and he is he's not the perfect backcourt mate with Dame, is like the only thing. So maybe he would thrive more in a different setting, or if Dame leaves, then maybe he'll have more chance to kind of flower. But I like Anthony Simons a lot. He's just still young, and I think he's had flashes, like he has had made winning moments, but I just don't it's tough because he's still young and I'm projecting for next year. But I feel like when I'm looking at who we looked at so far, some of them have kind of proven themselves. So my initial feeling is to put him in D, and not to say that he's bad.
Interesting. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I hmm. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. I think Anthony Simons is good. I think he probably averaged like 20 points a game last season. He had a lot of responsibility, and it was kind of like the CJ McCollum to Dame,
Yeah.
the second guy. And I think this year, obviously, there's a lot of Dame rumors. We don't know what's going to happen. Um, More likely than not, he'll end up with some more opportunity. Um, I would assume. So I think he's good. It's weird that he's a shooting guard because he's kind of small. He's kind of skinny. Um, Kind of like we talked about with a couple players, Terry Rozier, Donovan Mitchell already. But I think his ceiling is definitely higher than Terry Rozier and Buddy Hield
Hmm.
in terms of how, good of a player he be, how much of a jump he could make. I would say him and Terry Rozier are already very similar. Um,
Hmm.
because I think he did have a pretty good season last year. And I think Terry Rozier likely will have a regression in usage with the addition of like Brandon Miller into the starting lineup. And I know the Blazers drafted Scoot, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think Anthony will be starting alongside Scoot or he'll be starting alongside Dame. So either way, I think he'll be out there kind of getting the
Hmm.
usage. Anyways, so I would say he's probably, at least for me, above Terry Rozier. Maybe that means Terry Rozier needs to go down to the D tier. Um,
I'm fine with that if you want to switch them because I understand. I get your point about them being very similar and just Anthony Simons being younger and more, he'll have more opportunity and he's on a team that will probably, you know, need him more than Charlotte's like needs Terry Rozier. So
yeah, and
I get that.
the C tier is very weird because it's like two players, OG, and well, it's actually three different types of players. So
Yeah, right.
Anthony could be like a number one option guy with the potential. Buddy Hield is like at his ceiling, but he's really good at that ceiling. And then
Right.
OG is like really good at what he does, but could also be even better.
It's
Uh,
also OG to me is not a shooting guard. To me, he's a small forward,
yeah, he
because he
definitely.
has that height, but the Raptors just have all those wings, so
Yeah, they just run them all together. Um,
yeah, so it things will be moved around a little bit, I'm sure, but I'm fine
yeah,
with the assessment. Um yeah, I always kind of felt like Terry should be in D tier, but not because he's bad by any means. But
yeah, and I think this next player kind of falls into this category too.
oh yeah.
Tyler Hero of the Miami Heat,
Mm.
another player I think is a shooting guard who is not known as a great defender, but is a really good scorer, really good shot creator, young, has potential to grow. Um, Compare him and Anthony Simons. Tyler Hero is probably a little better. Probably has a little bit of a higher ceiling too, I would
Hmm.
say. Um, he has what he has that Anthony Simons does not. I think is a proven playoff record. Um,
Yeah. Definitely.
Rookie year in the bubble in the finals, was really good on that Heat team. And since then, they've gone to the conference finals. They went to the finals again, but he was injured.
Yeah.
But he, I think, has shown who he can be. Um, and I think obviously there's still potential room for growth. It's tough. It's tough. I'm looking at the C tier. I think, like I said, I think he's better than Anthony Simons. I think Buddy Hield, I don't know if I really like Buddy Hield because I think he does exactly what he needs to do, but I don't
Yeah.
know if that means he's a C tier player. Um,
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's tough. Like eventually we'll kind of have to define the tiers, right? Like,
yeah,
but I could see Tyler Hero fitting in like right behind OG, and then
yeah.
right. I don't know
Oh,
because
it's
like
tough. It's so tough.
it's because OG does other things that he doesn't do, but Tyler
Right.
Hero kind of has proven more, and he's younger, and I think he's younger.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's younger. Yeah. So, um,
I'm looking at the next player and I'm just like, oh, it's the same thing.
yeah. So next player is Jordan Poole. So the exact same thing that we were talking about. That exciting player to watch. He's going to have new opportunities now with Washington Wizards. He won't be in the shadow of anybody.
He's gonna
Um,
shoot buzzer beaters from 40
he's
feet
going to shoot
away.
buzzer beat. No one's going to look at him weird. It's like, yep, that's Jordan Poole. This is his team. I mean, maybe it's so funny because I definitely, in that kind of regard, I would put Kuz in the same kind of category. It's just like players who haven't been number one options, but sometimes think they are. So, like, I don't know. I just remember Kyle Kuzma sometimes really just digging in his heels, being like, "No, this like I'm taking over this game," and he just doesn't. He can sometimes. Jordan Poole has proven himself. I mean, I think maybe it wasn't the biggest part about why the Warriors won in 2022, but he played a role. And last year he just didn't do. He wasn't as good. He just wasn't after he signed that contract. So I understand why the Warriors offloaded it. I understand why the Wizards took it and take a chance on them. Jordan Poole can be very good. His ceiling is high. I think there's some attitude and locker room, questions that come with him. The whole Draymond thing, and um, although Draymond has those same kind of issues, so it's tough. It's funny to put those two together. But Jordan Poole is interesting because I can see a world where he's okay. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at who we have right now. I don't
Yeah,
think he's better than Anthony Simons.
right,
Is he better than Terry Rozier? Probably. Like
right,
just his ceiling, right?
right.
So maybe like I don't want to put five players in C, so maybe like D, like above Terry.
Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because I literally looked at C tier and I thought, man, Jordan Poole's worse than all these players.
Hmm.
And I don't know if this is a hot take or not, because I don't think it's something that anyone has ever talked about, or probably because it doesn't really matter.
Ooh, say
Um,
it. Damon's hot take. Let's do it. Let's hear it.
I feel like Jordan Poole really benefited from the system. I feel like he's a very system player in
Yeah.
Golden State. I think he got with the system, which is great. Not all players can do it. There are plenty of players that have played in a system like Golden State's, and it didn't work out because they just weren't system players, like James
Yeah.
Wiseman, the
Right.
number two pick, who had a lot of upside, but he couldn't get with the system, so they shipped him out. Um, so more credit to him. And he went to college, Michigan. I want to say I know that for some reason.
That
Uh,
sounds right. I
and
don't
I
know.
think I think he was there for a while. So like he wasn't a one and done. I think he was there for like 3 years at least. So playing at places like that in a certain kind of system, I think, allows you to kind of showcase what you're good at. Where in Washington, it might just be like, all right, Jordan Poole, here's the ball.
Yeah.
Figure it out. So I don't know if we'll see maybe like you would think, oh, he's the starter, he's not behind Stephen Clay, he's gonna shine. But in a place like Washington that doesn't have that system and doesn't have that coaching, I'm a little worried that he might flail a little bit. He might
Yeah.
show some signs of inefficiency and stuff like that.
I totally agree with your assessment. I think he'll have fun playing with that without a system, but I don't think he'll be as efficient playing in that with what Washington's trying to do, which I don't really know. I guess they're rebuilding. But again, like he can be electrifying, he can be fun. Like he's had moments for sure. And I only hope the best for him because I do like some things about his game. I just hope he kind of gets maybe getting put into a rebuilding team will kind of help with his outlook and attitude and like the NBA. And hopefully he can shine a bit more. Maybe like this next guy we're going to talk about.
Yeah, speaking of liking games, I actually want you to take this because this is a
Yeah,
player that you have spoken on this podcast about really liking their game and liking watching them. And I'll just do the next two afterward.
it's so funny that you say that because you read my mind. I was like, I really want this next guy, and I know down the
and you
line.
see who's two after.
Yeah, and
Oh
I was like,
yeah,
I knew I love that we were on the same wavelength.
yeah. We
Um,
communicate telepathically during the podcast to plan the
yeah,
podcast as we're going.
yeah. Do
We're
you have
built
friends like
different.
that? Yeah, do you have friends like that? Does
We're not
anyone
friends. We're brothers.
exactly? And don't don't let anyone ever tell you anything different. Anyways, so another brother of mine, Anthony Edwards.
That was a good segue.
So Anthony Edwards,
Friend of the pod.
friend of the pod, shout out. I've discussed him quite a bit because he is a player I really enjoyed his progression so far in the NBA. As a rookie, he was one of the I thought should have won rookie of the year. Although I know it was LaMelo. That was just my pick. I know he had some defensive issues and also like off-ball issues. He wouldn't move. There's a lot of clips of him like his first and second year, like he would just kind of stand around while other people were doing stuff. But I really liked. I think he took a giant step last year.
Yeah.
And he signed a max, so I'm very super max, very happy for him. He just is hungry. He plays, he leaves it all out on the court. His 3 game has developed really well. He's a threat now. Before he was when I know he was drafted, he was mostly just like rim runner and very electrifying dunker and things of that nature. And it's very cool just to see him. He's expanding his game. He doesn't have the same kind of attitude issues I was worried about, like, oh, I don't need to defend. Like, I'm an offensive guy. Like, he's defending more now. He's on the FIBA's USA team. He just had a 34-point game against Germany. It was an exhibition, but large part of why they won. He's just really fun to watch, and he's a reason why I love watching the Timberwolves, and I think he fits that. Timberwolves to me have this kind of like the kind of the Grizzlies, like grit and grind kind of thing. Like they kind of like are just want to leave it all on the court and things, and I love watching that. So to me, all that to say, Anthony, don't change your number. Go back to number 1. No, but I think for me, he's an A tier. I would probably put him below Jaylen Brown just because he is still like kind of getting used to the NBA, but I think he has a really bright future. He's one of my favorite parts about watching the NBA now. I just don't think he hasn't led the Timberwolves. He hasn't been a big part of like why they've gone far in the playoffs. He's just been the first round and that was it. But that's my assessment. How do you feel?
Yeah, I was thinking actually the same exact placement, A tier right below Jaylen Brown. I think there's no chance he finishes anywhere below that.
Yeah.
If you told me that he finished as an S tier, a top 5 shooting guard, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. If you told me he led the Timberwolves to the 5 seed, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's impossible. I'd be a little shocked. But I definitely can see that type of growth from Anthony Edwards. I think, like you said, he's already had a tremendous amount of growth. Definitely, reminds me of some of our favorite players growing up. Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady. Is he that caliber of player yet? No. Can he be that caliber of player? Definitely.
Time will tell. Yeah.
The skill set is there. I think the attitude is there, which is really important. The work ethic seems to be there as well. So, Yeah, I like his game a lot. He's already kind of expanded and become a little bit more of a shooter, which he struggled a little bit with early on in his career. But gets to the basket, uh, gets to the mid range, and I think he's getting better at when the double teams or something comes. Okay, I'm gonna kick it out, or I'm like clog
Yeah.
the paint because I drive. And like you said, also his defense. He has the body type to be a good defender. And I
Yep.
think some of those things are kind of starting to show.
Yeah, and like you said, he's becoming like less selfish. Not that he was, but definitely recognizing
Just
when he can let someone else
just making
uh
the right play.
making the right play. Not servicing the player, but he's all about the team play. At least it seems like that's what he's getting more into. And I love seeing that in a young player, and I'm just excited to see where he goes.
Yes.
And speaking of young
I
players,
was gonna say, speaking of young players, you
we're the same. We're the
bastard.
same. We're the same. We're the
Um,
same.
I don't know if every segue should start with speaking of, but we'll, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're figuring these segues out, guys. Just
Um,
bear with us.
yeah, young up and comer Devin Vassell. The Spurs. We love Texas teams around here. I actually like Devin Vassell. I think he is definitely like when I think of a championship caliber team in my mind, and I think of like the prototype builds for each position. A like 6'6", 6'7" shooting guard sounds great. And that's kind of what he is, and he's similar to not I don't want to say similar to OG because OG is so good. But he's like similar in which he can shoot and he can defend relatively well, and he I think has grown a little bit as a creator since entering the league. He's still very young. The Spurs are, you know, the worst they've been in 30 years, right? So they're kind of going through a weird phase right now. They're kind of just trying to figure out what young talent they have. But I think Devin Vassell's a good piece, and I think alongside Wembanyama, who's going to get a lot of the attention, I think players like him can kind of grow and strive because now there's going to be three or four young guys on the court that all have potential rather than
Mhm.
before it was like, oh, there's like one or two guys on the court that we really kind of need to focus on, and everybody else is basically a role player. So um, I think hopefully he gets a little more opportunity to shine without the pressure because he's not like all the eyes are going to be on Wimby.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he can just kind of play basketball.
Yeah.
Uh, that being said, he is very young. I think his growth will come. However, I would probably still put him, looking at the players we have up here, probably on the D tier.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly the placement I was thinking too. But I watched a little bit of Spurs basketball last year. I saw them play live as well, and he's definitely one of like I mentioned, some like of these rebuilding teams, like a bright spot. Definitely had some games where he was the highest scoring player on the team, but they probably lost that game. He's still learning. He's very good at what he is. He will have a lot of opportunity still with San Antonio, and I'm just excited to see what he can do. But definitely just young, and I by no means do I think he's a bad player. Just young,
Just young,
and
yeah.
and he'll get there.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, but who's really consistent?
Who's really consistent, you ask? Why, thanks for asking. One of my favorite players, I think, in the NBA, Desmond Bane, former TCU Horned Frog. Um, Now Desmond Bane is great. He has been really good since entering the league. He entered and got drafted in the 20s by the Grizzlies, and a bunch of teams passed up on him. He spent a lot of years in college. He was not one and done. He's already like 23, I think.
Hmm.
But he's so good at what he does. He's very complimentary. He's like 6'5". He can shoot immaculately. One of the best shooters on the board here for sure. I see even further growth this year. I see he just got a rookie max extension, I believe. I can definitely see all-star conversations. Probably not an all-star, but with Ja being out the first 25 games, um, it's really up to him and Jaren Jackson, I think, to carry probably most of the offensive burden. So I can definitely see a jump for Desmond Bain. I can see a kind of 20 to 22 point game season, um, just because he's so good at shooting. And I think he's kind of getting better as a ball handler as well. He's an okay defender. It's tough. I'm looking at this. I kind of want to move OG up to the C tier. I mean the B tier, sorry. 'Cause looking at him and all the C tier guys, and I just think he's better. I don't know what you think about that. It's
It's so
totally,
funny because you just did it without asking me.
yeah.
But yeah, I was just thinking the same thing too. So yeah.
But that being said, I think Desmond Bain is also up there on the B tier. I think he's better clearly than Anthony Simons, Tyler Hero, but he healed. I'm struggling where to put him on the B tier, because I don't think he has the defense of these other two guys. I don't think it's quite
Yeah.
at that level because DeJounte and OG are very good at defense. Um, so I'd probably put him at the back of the B tier for now, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. Only because he's still proving himself. But this year, this is going to be like his year because, like you said, Jaw's going to be out for a little bit, um, but Jaw was the games that Jaw was out last year. It was Desmond Bain's game. You know, like those were the Grizzlies had a crazy stat how they were still so good without Jaw. You know, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah, two
And
years ago they were like 22-2 or something.
yeah, so you know, maybe if it was me, I would put him a little bit. It's so tough because I like OG and DeJounte a lot, but I'm good with that placement right now for sure.
And we can
Um,
discuss later when we're trying to
absolutely.
organize. But I
Well,
have a question for you.
yes, ask away. Also, we should
Uh,
recap who we've talked about so far.
okay, let's do that first, and then I'll ask my
Okay.
question.
Yes.
So far we are it looks like 13 or so names. Yep, 13 names through
Yep.
the tier list. We have Donovan Mitchell as the lone player in S tier. We have Jaylen Brown and Anthony Edwards in A tier. DeJounte Murray, OG Anunoby, and Desmond Bain in B tier. Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, and Anthony Simons in C tier. Jordan Poole, Terry Rozier, Devin Vassell in D tier, and then Grayson Allen holding down the F tier. Um, anyways, my question for you,
Yes.
can you tell me who's him?
Why, thank you for asking me that, Damon. And I had another thing I was gonna do, and I wanted you to say, well, I was gonna say that Donovan Mitchell is lonely at the S tier, but he won't be alone for long. So him, to answer your question, is Austin Reeves. Thank you for putting him where he belongs, above Donovan Mitchell. No, I'm kidding. So Austin Reeves is a player I've watched a lot of because I'm a Lakers fan.
Right.
And I remember when he first started, we lost Austin Caruso. Austin, I'm so sorry, Alex Caruso. Apologies, Alex. And
Friend of the
Austin
podcast.
Reeves, friend of the pod. Austin Reeves kind of filled in that like shooting guard, defensive minds kind of spot. And this was the year when everyone on the Lakers was, 40. So he was definitely, he was good. And then last year he really made a jump. People talked about him is the thing. Like no one Lakers fans would talk about him. Like we like him. But last year is when he really made his presence known. I always liked him as a starter because he was younger and he played defense very well. And I think he's also a spacer, and he's proved that this last year as well. He has taken over games surprisingly when needed to, in the
Of
playoffs,
course.
no less. And I really like Austin Reeves is everything I would want in a basketball player.
Right.
And plays great defense, knows does not need to be like the leading scorer, knows when he can turn up and when he can just, space the floor, let LeBron do his thing, let AD do his thing, and just set them up. And I can't praise him enough. I think we got lucky with the contract we signed him for. He's definitely worth more than 4 years, 58 million.
Mhm.
But we're lucky. And next year he's gonna keep getting better. I don't know what his ceiling is, which makes me excited. That being said, I don't know if his ceiling is gonna be higher than like Desmond Bain. Um, but I do think it's higher than Tyler Hero. And I say that because he plays defense. and he's still younger. And so I would like to put him in C tier above Tyler Hero. And this is me trying to be like objective, not trying to be let my emotion, because obviously like I like him more personally than LeJontay and OG. I like Desmond Bain a lot, so I can't say that. But we're just projecting how we think he's gonna do. Is he gonna do better than DeJounte, OG, and Desmond Bain? Maybe, but I don't know. So that's why I think he's gonna be better than Tyler Hero, Buddy, and Anthony Simons, though. So that's my answer to that. And that's a lot. I'm so sorry, but you could tell I'm emotional about this. Damon, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, your favorite team. This is gonna be a theme. I think you had D'Angelo Russell way too high. Now I think you have Austin Reeves way too high.
It's
Um,
okay. It's okay.
and you said he was younger than Tyler Hero. He's
Oh, he's not,
he's
is
two
he?
years older than Tyler Hero.
Ah,
Uh,
that's fine.
so he came into the league relatively old, and Tyler
Right.
Hero came in and was like barely 19.
Right.
Um, yeah. So first of all, AR-15. You're a white guy. That's like the worst nickname in the NBA. Um,
He,
it's
he
so
doesn't
bad.
like he doesn't like that nickname. He doesn't
Yeah, it
try
was
to
kind of
make it.
bestowed upon him. He didn't really ask
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um,
He likes we call him Hobo or is it Hobo Kobe, HBK?
that's so bad.
It's
That's
not it's I prefer him. That's him. Hey.
him. That's him. Yeah, I can go with that. Uh, so here's my qualm with you. Shotty Burris made an All-Star game. Is Austin Reeves ever going to make an All-Star game?
This
I'd
year.
be so surprised. I think like if OG and Desmond Bain made it this year, I'd be a little shocked. But I don't think it's out the realm of possibility. If Tyler Hero ever made an All-Star game, I wouldn't be that shocked. If Austin Reeves made an All-Star game, I'd be like, what is going on? Um, I think Tyler Hero's ceiling is higher as a ball handler or a shot creator. Um, I know he doesn't play defense. You're absolutely right about that. Austin Reeves obviously a much better defender than Tyler Hero. Um, but I don't see Austin Reeves as like the guy with the ball in his hands when the clock's ticking in the end of the fourth quarter. That's I want to give it to Tyler Hero, and I'm be like, oh, that guy's gonna do something crazy and make a 35-foot three just because he can. Um, and then when I get to Buddy Hield and Anthony Simons, then I see the argument. I think that's where it starts for me. Um, so yeah, that's my response.
And okay, I hear you. And this is my response. In the fourth quarter during these last playoffs, Austin Reeves did take over a game and he did make shots that needed to be made. And maybe he's not on a team where you'd expect that, because with a team like LeBron and AD, and
Right.
you just expect him not to be that person. But for whatever reason, he was, and he is accomplished. Like I can't say last year for Tyler Hero, like was he a big part of it's hard because he was injured during their finals run,
Right.
right? So who knows what could have happened. But I'm thinking that we're talking about next year, right? So my projection for next year is I think Austin Reeves is going to be better than Tyler Hero. I just do. Maybe in like a couple years from now, Austin will be the same and Tyler Hero will go past, and then I get it and then I understand. But to next year, I think he's gonna be building Tyler Hero. So that's why I say above C. I mean, revisit this when we again. As I want you to know, I didn't put him in B. That's why I explained I'm not gonna put him in B, because I get it, because I understand that there is a bias. But I'm being objective when I say I think he's better than Tyler Hero. I am.
That's it. That's interesting. That's so interesting. Uh,
Yeah. I just don't like I like his unselfish play. I think he makes the right plays when he needs to. I think Tyler Hero can be a little bit selfish with the ball, but also on the Heat team, like I think he needs to be, so it's okay.
right.
Um,
That's a valid
but
argument.
so that's my argument. And again, they're right. Technically, they're in the same tier.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Um, so we can revisit this when we get a little bit further, but that's just like how I feel. C tier above Tyler Hero, Buddy, and Anthony Simons.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That is fine for now. We'll revisit and talk about it. I'm like looking
Look,
at it and I'm like, oh man, that looks tough. Um,
I
but
want you to know we did move D'Lo down at some point. You know what
he
I mean?
moved him
So
down
like,
like a lot, I think.
but the thing is, this is all like we're looking at somebody gut eye test, gut reaction, projecting next
Yeah.
year. You know what I mean? So, um,
The,
you
the
know,
the thing you have going for you is that in between Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier, zero of those players play defense. That's where
yes.
that's where you get me. And it's really tough.
Also,
Like four of them are the same player. Tyler Hero, Anthony Simons, Jordan Poole, and Terry Rozier all do the same thing.
uh,
Buddy Hield is different, but elite at what he does.
right. I will say also that I have watched a lot of Austin Reeves,
True.
and I feel like you've seen more Tyler Hero than I have. So I feel like that's where
Yeah.
it's a little bit. But I have seen a lot of because I did watch like the playoffs and whatnot. I know a lot of his game, like not this past year, but the year before. Whereas I know Austin's game last year. So and I
And
didn't get to see a lot of Tyler Hero because he was injured in the playoffs.
I
Otherwise, I
saw
would have seen.
the Rockets and Heat live this year in Houston. Tyler Hero hit 11 threes against us, and he was like running up the court and just taking a top of the key fast break three in someone's face and draining it. And I was like, all right, I don't know what we're supposed to do
That
here.
is insane. That is insane.
I was like, this is insane.
Credit where
Uh,
credit's due. But
but maybe that's bias in a different way.
yeah. Well, you also watched this next player live, right? You
I
saw
sure
the you
did.
saw that.
Actually, he might have been injured. He probably wasn't. He was injured a lot.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I did watch the Rockets for the Magic, and their starting shooting guard projected next year be Jalen Suggs. He's had a rough start to his career. You know, he came off of that high at Gonzaga, winning the national championship, making the game winner in like the Final Four, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. It was a game
So
before the final, or like the championship, but it was
yeah,
like the fight. Yeah,
so he came into the NBA kind of riding that high. Got drafted really high, number 4, I think.
four. Yeah, I think
Um,
four. Yeah,
to the Magic, so I think he went a little higher than people projected. I mean, they projected like 6 or 7. 4 is not crazy, but anyways, he had some injury issues these first couple of years. He's struggled a little bit. We talked about a little bit last episode when we talked about Markel Fultz. Their guard
yeah.
rotation is insane. They have Markel, they have Cole Anthony, Jalen. They just drafted Anthony Black. They had um, Gary Harris. I think they still have Gary Harris.
I
Uh,
think they do, but odds are pretty high he won't be there next season.
and they used to have Terrence Ross
Mhm.
before they, I think, traded him for like a second or something uh,
Yeah,
to the Suns. So, anyways, there's a lot of guards there, a lot of playing time. They're trying to figure out what they have. I think Jalen Suggs is fine. He's still growing. Obviously, I think he came into the league a little older. I don't think he was like a one and done player. I could be wrong about that though.
I have a feeling too that he was a part of like the team for like at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Feels like
Um,
that. Yeah.
and I think with all the stuff going on, I think Paulo will have the ball a lot. I think Franz Wagner will have the ball a fair amount. I think Markel will have the ball. Anthony Black off the bench. Wendell, they have a lot of good pieces. I don't really see like a world where Jalen Suggs, is top 3 in usage or something like that. I feel like
Yeah.
he will be kind of resigned to that role player thing. And honestly, like ceiling wise, it's higher, but I would probably slot him in the F tier with Grayson Allen. I'm just
Yeah.
not seeing it. I haven't seen enough to say, oh, he's going to make this big jump. Because, like I argued earlier, I think Devin Vassell, who's at the back of our D tier right now, I think he will have some opportunity because there's not that
Mhm.
many guys that are, worth really giving opportunity to in San Antonio. There's only 3 or 4 of them, whereas Orlando has like 8 guys that like
Literally.
need to play basically. So and I think Jalen Suggs is kind of towards the bottom of that list of guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's also just not talked about as much as like Marco Fultz, Cole Anthony, Anthony Black. It's just I had high hopes for him just because of, his career in college was very good. Drafted a little high, I thought, and he's had injuries, which is I hate seeing from such a
Right.
young player. Who knows what he could do when he's fully healthy. We have yet to see that though. So I agree with your analysis, putting him in the F tier. But on the other side of a young player who has a lot of injuries, or just haven't seen a lot of. Jay Ivey is a player I've seen a little bit of. We watched him play at Summer League too, against the Rockets, and he honestly has been one of my, like, he was a rookie last year. It was one of my favorite rookies to watch. He's a really fun player to watch, very energetic, slashes, you know, could use more like, what do you mean? What was that face?
I was looking at something on my screen.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. And maybe could do a little bit better, like shooting and playmaking, but you don't have to worry about that with Cade Cunningham on the team.
Right.
That being said, he is going to be going into his second year. So I think his ceiling can be very high. I like him on the Pistons a lot. I want to go see the Pistons play. A big part of the reason is because of him. I just like his game. I like
Sure.
watching him. Also Cade and Jalen Duren, just a lot of really cool young players to watch. That being said, he hasn't had a chance to prove himself like some of these other ones that we've already talked about. I think his ceiling can also be high, kind of like we talked about with Jalen Suggs and a couple of these other players. But he's going into second year, so I'm projecting how he's going to be next year, and I want to say he's at the end of the D tier, but by no means do I. I think he's hasn't proven himself more than some of these other guys, and I don't think next year he will get that chance because Cade's going to be fully healthy, and he'll be in the shadow of that, I think. But again, I like him a lot. He's just young.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back a little on that. I think Cade is really at his best when he's making his teammates better.
Hmm.
So I feel like his presence will actually help Jaden Ivey rather than hurt it. Starting
Hmm.
on Cade rather than someone like Killian Hayes, for example.
Yeah.
Um, and I think his ceiling is really high. Um, like I'm thinking when I look at the players here, if Jaden Ivey ends up being a B tier type player, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm not
Yeah.
saying that for next year.
Right.
I think you're right in that assessment. I think it will take some time. I think the Pistons, they've been bad for a while, and they probably want to start getting better. I think this year will be a step towards that. Not quite, 7 seed. Maybe they finish just a 10 seed and try to fight for a playing spot. I feel like that's about as high as I can see their ceiling.
Mhm.
And I talked about last episode how excited I was for Cade, how I thought he could make a big jump. I think Jaden Ivey can do something similar, but with they're young and developing, right? And I think the jump next year is not going to be that substantial. Um, I probably like him a little more than Vassell, say maybe in front of Vassell, but other than that, I'm fine with D tier.
You could put him in front of Vassell because I wanted to say honestly in front of Rozier, but that was me being a little subjective.
Mm.
So I was trying to, find that middle ground of like potential and proving himself. So that's why, like, I know Vassell's been in the NBA maybe like a year or two more. So
Right.
um
Yeah,
that's why I kind of have it. But it's so like right next to each other type thing.
I have a feeling we will definitely dive into the tiers and maybe swap some people around at some point because I feel like
Yeah,
we've been
for
a little
sure.
uncertain. But I don't know. The point guards, it seemed a little more obvious, but with the shooting guard so far, it's like, I don't know. It's like
Yeah,
these
but we
guys have
did.
got to.
I do want to say we did say that about the point guards initially. First, we were like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is so tough to like." Only after we finished did we like, "Well, okay, now we can kind of see the
Yeah.
division." So,
All
yeah.
right.
Well, yeah,
Next.
yes.
Next. Next. Former Jordan Poole teammate, Klay Thompson. Man, Klay Thompson, one of the greatest stories in the NBA. Achilles tear, ACL tear, back-to-back seasons, missed over 2 years of NBA basketball. Really tough, during a Warriors dynasty, essentially. They're missing their starting shooting guard, top three player on the team. Really unfortunate for him, really unfortunate for them. Um, and he's bounced back these last couple of years. I think some people wrote him off entirely, just like, I don't think you're that guy anymore. And to some extent they're correct. He hasn't been quite the player, but tore your Achilles and ACL, would you expect him to be quite the player?
Yeah.
And he's aging as well, and he was rusty because he didn't play for so long. So, there's a lot going against him, but I do think he's had a very positive attitude about the whole thing. Probably one of the more liked players in the NBA. Like, I feel like other players really like him. Fans typically like him. Um, my biggest pet peeve with Klay Thompson is he always shoots the ball. And I feel like, because, I obviously paid more attention in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, Lakers played the Warriors, so you probably watch that series, every second, basically.
Hmm.
Um, there are times where I feel like Klay Thompson is 5 of 20, but he's taking a three at the top of the key that's kind of contested with 18 seconds on the shot clock. And it just confuses me. And I know like Steve Kerr is kind of okay with it, and I think Steph is kind of okay with it just because of how important he's been to their franchise. But I think he's just not the guy anymore. I think you know, allocating some of those minutes and stuff to players like Moses Moody and stuff might be beneficial in the long run. I do think Klay is still a reliable shooter, but sometimes he's taking shots that prime Klay probably had no issue making. He's not prime Klay anymore. He's definitely regressed a bit. Looking at the tier list we have here,
Yeah,
it's
this is
tough.
where it's tough. It's tough because
Uh,
yeah, I echo a lot of what you're saying. I'll say what I think after you make your placement, and then we can have an argument.
I don't think Klay Thompson's a B tier player anymore. I
Okay.
think he's clearly worse than everyone B and above. Um, C tier, we can make some arguments. D tier, we can make some arguments. It's really hard. I don't know. Like, I think he's C or D, and I don't know why I would put him on either. I don't know what which of those players he's better than. It's not obvious to me because I think he still has the ability, but when I'm watching him play and he's just chucking and chucking and chucking, um, it's hurting the team, of course. Which is
Yes.
it's I he might be worse than everybody on C tier. Like,
Um, yeah, I can talk about him a little bit because I've seen a little bit, and we can kind of make an assessment from that. I think you are accurate because everything you said is what I was thinking as well. Obviously, he's just not the same as he was before. But again, so we're projecting for next year, which I have to keep saying, and I have to keep in mind.
I said it so many
Um,
times last episode.
yeah, and I'm saying it a lot now too. But he is has such that championship caliber, and he knows like yet. So you're right that he does in a lot of games will chuck up the ball and just end up like I remember I think one playoff game was like 3 for 16 against the Lakers, and they're like the commentators were just like, man, if Klay doesn't heat up, like the Warriors are ruined, which I think is so interesting because it's like if Klay and Steph are making their shots, the Warriors win usually. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's so tough to analyze, like because to me they're kind of so in tandem. Like Klay would also be just a great player on another team. Like he's a great role player for what he is, not as what he was before the injuries. Um, but the Warriors don't win or are not even as much like a championship contender without him. Um, so projecting for next year, it's tough because I was like, I say C tier,
Yeah.
just because of that reason. But is Buddy Hield now like the better role player in that position? Because he's younger and he makes his threes. But he doesn't have the experience. And next year, what's going to matter more?
Right.
Is he better? All the three other guys are young and have time to prove themselves. So Klay is one of these that has so much. I think he's like probably the oldest one we've talked about so far, right? I think
Uh,
so. Or Tori, no, yeah,
yeah.
he's older than
He
Rozier for sure.
definitely. He's like 33. He's
Yeah,
old. He might be
yeah,
the
yeah,
oldest guy on here.
yeah. So it's really tough to project that for next year. But I don't think Warriors win without him. Is my thing. That's
What do you think of this placement?
I'm fine with that. I'm
Okay.
totally fine with
So
that.
for our listeners, we have him on C tier in between Buddy Hield and Anthony Simons. We'll go back and review at the end and tell you all the tiers and move around people and such, but that's where it currently stands. That was a hard
Yeah.
one. That was a hard one.
Yeah, and again, this is not considering a legacy. Like Klay Thompson will be
Right.
remembered, probably above Austin Reeves and
If,
Buddy Hield. And
if we're prime claying, it's like A tier.
yeah, for sure. But I'm fine with this placement.
Who I
And
don't think will be as hard to rank is the next
uh,
player.
you really don't?
No, I don't think
Um,
so.
this is interesting because I have a little bit of difficulty
Okay.
with it. So Zach LaVine is who we're talking about on the Bulls, and yes, he has not been. So he was on my fantasy team, I think 2 years ago. So I was really watching him, and he was a bucket. He was a bucket 2 years ago. Last year, not as much. But he's been an all-star, and he's better at shooting than he was like a few years ago. From what I've watched of the Bulls, like without him, like they really don't even really have less of a chance, to try and make the playoffs, make a push. It's weird because the Bulls are such a stale mate position with their like DeRozan and Vucevic and
I
Zach LaVine.
I went on a whole tirade during our offseason grades
Yeah,
about that. I gave him a
but
straight F. I was like, "What are you doing?"
yeah, but okay, but considering individual skill and just how good of a basketball player he is and projecting next year, this is tough, and I know you're not gonna like it. Just because so many of these I just want to throw in C, but I'm like, he is good. I just don't know if he's good on the Bulls. You know what I mean?
I
It's
you want me to chime in?
yeah, chime in.
I think Zach LaVine is clearly better than everyone on the C tier, and
Okay.
everyone on the B tier is it's a debate.
Yeah, okay, so that's I was gonna say I thought you were gonna push back. I was gonna say behind Desmond Bain.
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay,
fine
okay,
with that.
okay.
I'm fine with
I
that.
was gonna say that, but I thought you were gonna say like no, like D, like he needs to prove himself. Like he
You think
didn't
I was
like
gonna
I
be?
don't
You thought my opinions would be lower?
I thought it was gonna be lower just
Interesting.
because when I'm like sure of something, you think the opposite. So I'm like, this is a sure, but wait, Damon has thought the opposite
No,
every other
Zach
time.
LaVine's good.
Okay,
He's
okay, good.
he's
We're on the
grown a
same page.
lot. He's like you mentioned his shooting. His shooting has been spectacular the last couple of years.
Okay.
And he used to just be he won 2 dunk contests. He used to just be, oh my
Yeah.
God, that guy's a good dunker. But no, he became like a legit slasher, and really good at that role. So
Yeah.
just like this next player is going to be,
Speaking of
hopefully, now it's my turn for my hometown hero, Jalen Green of your Houston Rockets. Um, Man, Jalen Green, I feel like is so disliked. He is a very negative narrative in the league, and it makes sense because um the Rockets, for some reason, like over these past 3 or 4 years of kind of not being a great, they have their players have had a lot of attitude, like a lot of like, oh, we're so good, even though they're like 15 and 60 every year or whatever. So I feel like a lot of players in the Rockets have had a negative narrative because of this. I think Jalen Green has been okay. I'm notorious in my friend groups of people that like basketball that I wanted the Rockets to take Evan Mobley at number 2 during that draft. You can go back and ask people like Dom if he remembers. I don't know if he does. But I was like, oh, I hope the Rockets take this guy. And they took Jalen Green, and it's whatever. Um, but I think his rookie year is kind of blah. This year or last year, I think was okay, and I'm starting to see the growth. I think there's a lot of potential. I think it has the potential to be an okay defender. He is really skinny, but I've seen the footwork improve. You just get like even the first half of last season, he would just get blown by. Like he would
yeah.
just stand there in the 3-point line and not turn his hips correctly, and the guy just blows right by him. I think he's gotten a little better at that. He's really good in transition. Seen a lot of transition highlights as a passer and as a finisher. I think because him and Kevin Porter Jr. have been the backcourt that's kind of forced him to become a little bit of a playmaker, which is a good thing because they're
Mhm.
both kind of shooting guards naturally. Um, his shot is getting better. I think his slashing is getting better. His decision making struggles. His defense has been lackluster, but has a chance. If I got to project Jalen Green for next season, how I think he'll finish with this Rockets core that we have with Fred and Dylan. Hopefully, veteran presence is helping. The next year jump, still probably like maybe right above Jaden Ivey, a D tier. I don't see him being that good. I hope he's better than that, obviously. But trying to just have a realistic output. Do I think Jalen Green is going to have a better season than Anthony Simons? Probably not. Do I think he's going to have a better season than Tyler Hero? Probably not. And those are kind of players in his archetype that I can compare him to.
Yeah, you're biased, man. He should be lower. No, I'm kidding. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's tough for me because I want to put Jaden Ivey above that, but I know, but I know Jalen Green. Like I've seen him, and I think next year he's going to benefit a lot with Fred on the team. And I like you mentioned like a little bit that like you hope it'll help. I think it will, and I think next year he will be better because I think he will be more of a shooting guard like he should be. And Fred will kind of take more of that like point guard
Yeah.
stuff. And I think he'll just get a lot better at being a shooting guard and not having because I think the worst thing you can do is like have a player be flip flopping and not know their place or where they stand on a team. And as a team, so, as young as the Rockets, like that was okay the last few years because they were figuring it out. But now it seems like they're trying to build something. I mean, I don't know what, but they're trying. Um, I'm
Do you want me?
excited to see.
Do you want me to take the next guy?
Um, sure. Oh yeah, I'd totally yeah, you could also take the next guy
And
as
then you could take the two after.
sounds good to
Um,
me.
yeah, the next guy, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to talk about it too long.
Yeah.
Quentin Grimes on the Knicks. I questioned if he is going to be the starter. I think there's an argument to be made between him and Josh Hart, maybe, or him and Emmanuel Quickly, one of those guys. But the list has Quentin Grimes, so we'll just go with Quentin Grimes here. He's shown some flashes. He's pretty young, I think, going into like his third or fourth year. I think he can be a good player in the NBA. How good of a player, I'm not sure. Don't think he'll be as good, at least right now, as anybody we have in the D tier. I'd probably put him at the top of the F tier.
I agree with you. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of Quentin Grimes. He does his job well, still on the younger side. Definitely not who I would have thought to be a starting shooting guard, but we'll get the job done. So
Yeah, I guess their front court is RJ, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like their two is between this guy, Emmanuel Quickly, but he was a six man of the year candidate.
Yeah.
And
I
then
really like him off the bench for the Knicks too. I
Josh
just
Hart kind of came off the bench too, even for them in the playoffs. So I guess Quentin Grimes is their go to. I don't know
yeah,
who
Josh Hart
started.
or DiVincenzo. Or is he more like small forward?
No, he's definitely like a two type player. But we'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
we'll use this list. Yeah.
If it was DiVincenzo, he'd be in the same exact place.
That's interesting because I agree with you. But a player that we've talked about a little bit, just because he
I'm
doesn't
so
wear
excited.
anything.
This one I think could be very interesting, and I know it's where we're getting into a
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of crunch. Like I noticed that we only have one player in S tier. We only have Donovan Mitchell in S tier, only two in A tier. We're gonna have to move a little bit of things around.
yeah.
So the player's Josh Giddey, who we're talking about. Um, I like his game a lot. Triple double threat. He's on the Thunder, who almost made it into the playoffs last year. This next year will make the playoffs, at least the play-in again for sure.
Yeah.
The West is stacked. Josh Giddey is just, I think he suffers by being on a team with a lot of talent, like Shea, and you're gonna have Chet, Jalen Williams. But Josh Giddey is very good at getting everyone involved, and I love his game because of that. I won't dive too much more into that, but when I'm looking at ceilings and what I think next year, it's tough because I'm looking at these tiers
Yeah, it's
And
getting a little tough.
it's getting a little tough because some players I think I want to move up and some I want to move
Yeah,
down. So for me, like I think Josh Giddey has the potential to be better than Austin Reeves.
I agree.
But is he better than Zach Levine? No. So maybe just throw him on the back of the B tier.
Yeah, the thought in my head was anything below B tier is a crime. So
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
I was
Okay. Okay.
thinking. Because I mean, yeah,
Okay.
he's huge. He's like 6'7", six
Mhm.
eight maybe.
Which I is surprises me every time. I have to say, like it doesn't seem like that.
He looks like
Uh,
a ghost. Uh, but no, he. So I went to like three Thunder game last year. Three Thunder games. I don't know. I didn't say that
yeah.
correctly. And he was really fun to watch. He did kind of what I think people wanted Ben Simmons to do,
Mhm.
where he would get the rebound and then he'd immediately push the pace. And
Yeah.
he's a good ball handler, so he'd run the fast break. After getting the rebound, there's no need for a pass, and then he'd kind of get a good shot, a good pass or something like that off of it, which I think is really important. Um,
Yeah.
the worst part about
Yes.
his game, he himself not a great shooter. Uh,
Yeah.
good facilitator, good rebounder, good scorer. He does a good amount of cutting, and things like that, backdooring, getting layups and such. Shooting is like the thing that I think separates him from the rest of the B tier players here. However, he I think is a better playmaker than all the B tier players here, which is probably what puts him in this category with them, I guess.
Absolutely. And the team he's on. I mean, he's on a team with so many threats with his, playmaking. So it definitely like next year is going to be really fun to watch and
Yeah,
exciting. And he's a big reason because of that. And this next player is one of the only reasons why I like watching this team, the 76ers.
yeah. Eat,
Tyrese Maxey.
go.
Go. I like Tyrese Maxey a lot. Um, on the Sixers, he's been really fun to watch. He's proven himself. Playing with Embiid, the reigning MVP, he can shoot. Um, can't really play make as much as maybe you'd wish. I guess that's why they have James Harden on the team. But he can cut. He can go to the rim. He can defend pretty well. He is like the Philadelphia. I think the untouchables for them are Tyrese Maxey and Embiid. So starting shooting guard, it's so tough because I want to put him in B tier. Like I do,
Yeah,
but we have five people there.
but we can
So
move
it's
people.
yeah, but who are we moving to A tier?
Right now, DeJounte is at the front. So
But do you think he's A tier?
see, I thought that same exact thing in my head while you were talking.
Yeah,
I was like, Tyrese Maxey is better than everybody on the B tier or
yeah,
I'm sorry, on
yeah,
the
the
C
C
tier.
tier exactly. So it's
Um,
like
yeah, but DeJounte as an A tier player does sound weird. I see what you're
right.
saying. I think here's how I think we make this, right?
Or I can suggest something. You say something first, and I'll suggest something.
I was gonna say we can just move Jalen Brown and Anthony Edwards to the S tier, um, and then put DeJounte in the A tier, and then it's still kind of balanced that way, I think. And I'm
Okay.
looking at the rest of our shooting guards. I think there's three guys that have an argument for S tier.
Yeah.
So maybe one of them doesn't make it, or Jalen Brown or Anthony Edwards stays in the A tier. You know, but I
I'm
really only think.
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you want to do what? Say it.
I was gonna say I'm okay with even just putting Jalen Brown in the S tier, and then maybe that looks a little better with other guys in the A tier with Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is like the head of the A tier, is his potential.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, so let's move DeJounte A, but then where Tyrese Maxey fits in the B tier is interesting because
It's tough.
it's tough because I like because like I
I
just
feel
want
like
to
there's
think.
such a drop off between B and C tier.
Yeah, I want to think about this for 10 minutes, but I we're not gonna do that. So let's just put him. You know what? I'd probably say above OG, I guess.
All the way at the head of the B tier. Wow,
Um,
that's wild.
only because I like Desmond Bain a lot, though. But to
I
me,
love Desmond Bain.
I think Desmond Bain should be above OG, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Um,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, and I think Tyrese and Desmond are so similar to me, but we'll have chance to move them around later. But I think
Okay.
I'm okay with this better. Now we're gonna talk about one of your favorite players.
One of my least favorite players in the NBA, Devin Booker. The other guy I was hinting at earlier when I said for a long time it felt like the best shooting guards argument was between these two guys, Donovan Mitchell, and I didn't mention him, but I was talking about Devin Booker.
Yep.
I think there was a narrative at the start of his career that he was an empty stats kind of player because he was on the Suns when they were really, really bad for a couple years. And then they had success in the bubble. They won all 8 games, but still didn't make the playoffs, unfortunately, because of the standings at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and then they traded for Chris Paul, of course, came back, and since then have been really solid, like top 2 seed every year. Now they have the big trade for Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. So totally different team now. The only two players on that finals team from 2020 are him and DeAndre Ayton. Everyone else from that team has departed. But I still think the Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, who's the best shooting guard in the NBA, is a relatively valid argument, I guess. I think they're definitely up there in the tippy top. He's grown as a playmaker a lot since having Chris Paul. I guess he kind of mentored him in that way. I think he's an okay defender. Um, Not great, but he's okay.
Yeah.
And then he is an amazing shot creator. For
Yeah.
himself, he's really good in the pick and roll, really good at getting to the mid range, really good at hitting threes. I think obviously some of the antics and stuff I don't love. That's why I don't love him as a player. Um, but when we're talking about shooting guards, I think Devin Booker clearly falls in the S tier. I would argue he's probably the best shooting guard in the NBA.
I agree with you. Though he is not my favorite shooting guard in the NBA. I think he is really good at what he needs to do and really good at what he does. And he's a big reason why the Suns are where they are right now. Do you like Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal don't go to the Suns without Devin Booker on that team?
Right.
So I think credit needs to be given where it's due, and Devin Booker has done that. He's put Phoenix on the map again. And is he the best shooting guard on this list? We'll see. But I do think where he is right now is good.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, because the next guy is the one because the next guy is really what I'm kind of
True.
like, ooh, maybe he's above Devin Booker.
True.
Of course, we're talking about Kevin Herter. Come on,
Atlanta Hawk
obviously,
legend.
Atlanta Hawk legend. So Kevin Herter, on the Kings now, he's a player I like quite a bit for what he does. Like he's not anyone I'm like, oh, I want a jersey, a Kevin Herter jersey.
Right.
He makes his shots, he cuts, he does what he needs to do. His ceiling, to me, it's about where it's gonna be for the rest of his career. It might get a little bit higher, but doesn't have the potential of some of these like D tier guys. So I put him on like he is like a starter on like a playoff team. So I would put him at the front of the F tier. But again, like I think he's a good player, and a lot of NBA teams like players like him. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about Kevin Herter. Yeah, it's like his entire career, he's a role player.
Yeah,
Um, Whereas I think some of these other guys, like the guys on D tier, they've all had some amount of being, a primary or secondary ball handler, where I don't think Kevin Herter really has that. Had a really good regular season, struggled a lot in the playoffs
yeah.
against the Warriors. Um, Head of the F tier. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I like the only players I feel like I can really compare him to are like Buddy Hield, but Buddy Hield is
Is
excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
He is so good.
Yeah, exactly. And proven himself in playoffs
And
and
like Austin Reeves, but we already talked about Austin Reeves being so high. I don't want to get
Hey,
into
I
that again.
don't wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, we're gonna get there. Let's talk about
I
this
think
next
he's
guy.
better. He's definitely better than the other guys here on F tier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think these three players we have, Devin Vassell, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Green on the D tier, their ceiling's a lot higher,
Yeah.
and they can make a lot of growth next year. And them having better seasons than Kevin Herter would not surprise me. So
Yeah.
I understand, where you're coming from there.
Yeah. So
This makes me
that's
want to move Clay Thompson to the F tier. I'm like, how
it's
different of they are players now?
it's so
Uh,
fun talking about hot takes, but we'll get there because that's not a bad idea, but we'll see.
next we have former six man of the year, Jordan Clarkson,
Lakers legend.
Cavs
Shout out.
legend. Um, yeah, Jordan Clarkson's tough. I think he is a relatively okay shot creator, shot maker. I think he has had a lot of good years with the Jazz since going there. I think he kind of grew as a player more than he was on any of his prior teams. More opportunity, and I think he kind of excelled in the role that he was given. Um, I don't think that role will be very big this year. I know he's listed as the starting shooting guard. They have people like Keontae George, who we saw in summer league, who's really good.
Really fun to
Um,
watch.
and
Yeah.
and they're rebuilding. They have All-Star Lauri Markkanen. They were surprisingly good at the first half of last season, and they kind of fell off because they were like, "Wait a minute, we're supposed to be bad. What are we doing?" Um, so yeah, I feel like Jordan Clarkson isn't going to have like a severe impact just because he's on a team who's rebuilding and he's kind of the older veteran player. As the season goes on, maybe he's not the starter anymore. Maybe some of the young guys overlap him. So all that being said, I don't see him having huge impact. I'd put him like right behind Kevin Herter.
That is very interesting.
It's low. It's really
It's
low.
low, but it's not wrong. I would probably put him above Kevin Herter just because he can like do a little bit of playmaking and
He
stuff.
he
Like
can
he
he
doesn't
can
just stand
yeah,
there
he
and
he can be
yeah.
a primary ball handler.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why I would put him above Kevin Herter. But then like I'm looking at like you said, the bottom of D, and I'm like, yeah, I could see Jalen Green, Jaden Ivey, and Devin Vassell like just making a jump,
Right.
and next year. And before we get into our last five, I think we should do a recap, and I also want to suggest a reclassification for two players.
Okay. Sure. So
I'm
do you
gonna
want to do it?
I'll
Or
suggest the reclassification, and then we'll do the recap.
okay.
Okay. So, or no, or do you want to flip it? Which one?
No, I don't care.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest two things, and you can say yes or no. I'm going to
Okay.
say Tyrese Maxey, Desmond Bain, A tier.
Okay. I'm definitely fine with Desmond Bain. I think Desmond Bain's better than Tyrese Maxey.
Okay,
But I'm looking at the list we have left.
it's only because of like we're things still might move around, but I just want to give us
Oh,
some space.
yes. I see what you're saying. I'm looking at the
Yes,
list we have left, and I'm like, okay, yes, okay.
because getting a little clogged in the
What's
middle.
the
So
argument for these two?
should
Do
we
you like
argue?
Maxi more?
Um, I think they are both the same player on a similar team. Like they each have a big that they play very well with, but the thing is, Desmond Bain has Jaw, whereas Tyrese Maxey, I mean, has James Harden,
Has
and
James
just
Harden?
so like I feel like Tyrese Maxey he's gonna have to do more. Although in the beginning of the year, I think Desmond Bain
Yeah,
will, you know what I mean?
it's
So
interesting.
it's to me, they're like in the same position, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But they're not the same player, right? Like they do different things, but they are like in that position. But let's recap and then we'll finalize it at the end. So right now in S tier, we have Devin Booker, uh, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown. A tier is Anthony Edwards, DeJounte Murray, Tyrese Maxey, Desmond Bain. We just did the move. B tier, OG, Anunoby. Did I say it right?
Yep.
Hell yeah. Zach Levine and Josh Giddey. C tier, him, Austin Reeves, Tyler Hero, Buddy Hield, Klay Thompson, Anthony Simons. D tier led by Jordan Poole, Terry Rozier, Jalen Green, Jaden Ivey, Devin Vassell. Then rounding out the F tier, we have Jordan Clarkson, Kevin Herter, Quentin Grimes, Jalen Suggs, and Grayson Allen, the worst shooting guard, starting shooting guard in the league? Question mark, because we're not the end of it. Because now we're going to talk about one of our favorite players of all time.
It's true.
I forgot whose turn it is, though.
I
It's
just
my
talked
turn.
about Jordan
It's
Clarkson.
This is one of our favorite players of all time. Lakers legend, Pistons legend, Wizards legend, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, NBA champion,
NBA
KCP.
champion. Don't talk to my wife unless your name is Octavius Caldwell.
A shirt that Damon and I will both buy and wear. So to me, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, a great role player, is desired by so many NBA teams. Plays defense, elite. It's so funny to say he's an elite shooter because he hits the backboard. I feel like just as much as he hits a three, but it's not. He hits. He does what he needs to do.
Yeah.
His talent comes from transition, getting ahead of the pack, and defending. This is big things, and he can make shots. Last year, I mean, I want to say he was probably like a high 30%. So it's just like he's probably higher than the average for sure.
Yeah.
Not a 40% 3-point shooter, but that's tough to be anyways. I like KCP a lot. It reminds me a lot of like Buddy Hield, though more successful and a bit quicker. But we're projecting the season he's going to have next year. And it's tough because we're already like full at C, D, and F.
Yeah, I mean we can just throw them where you think and we'll move some players around at the end.
Yeah, so I want to put him solidly in C tier because
Okay.
I think he's an important part of a championship team if you want to, go far. He was a big part of the Lakers. Not huge by any means, but like, he made an impact for the Lakers, made an impact for the Nuggets.
Hmm.
And next year will also still have an impact, though a little bit older than some of these guys. Like he still is a very good role player.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with putting him like for now right there in front of Buddy Hield.
Yeah. But
I think
yeah.
Buddy's a better shooter. KCP's a better defender. But they're similar, guys on their team where they're not the guy. They're like the fourth or fifth guy, but they're like the great fourth or fifth guy that you want on your team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fine with that. And there's a couple players on like there's all the C and below every tier. I'm like, why is this player on this tier?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, but the other player, like compared to the other players in that tier, doesn't make sense to me. Because they're like different types of players, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like I'm looking
Yeah.
at this tier and I'm like, okay, it has KCP, Buddy Hield, Klay Thompson. They're all, 3-point shooters at this point in their career. They're role players. They probably have a relatively good impact on winning. And I look at like Anthony Simons and Tyler Hero, who are two guys that are not those players.
I
So
love that you purposely didn't say Austin Reeves. That's so funny.
well, Austin Reeves, I don't think he falls into either of those categories because I think he's kind of a mix for me. He's like
Yeah,
he does the defense of like a KCP or a Klay. He kind of has the shooting of those guys as well, maybe not to that extent, but he's also kind of a ball handler sometimes. So it's like
and he's also on a team where he's like on his best day the third option, and on his
yeah,
worst day like the fifth option because anyone
right.
else can show. So it's like it's tough because Tyler Hero is obviously like top 3 on the Heat.
Yeah.
Anthony Simons is top 3 on the Blazers. So it's
Right.
like it's tough, but I see it. And we'll move things around, but I think leaving it like this for now is good because we have a very important player that you just love talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's not that I dislike. I think you dislike this player more than I do.
I do. I don't like him. Yeah, you're right.
We're talking about top 3 MVP voting OKC Thunder legend Paul George, the Clippers. Obviously, when you're talking about the Clippers, the first thing you think of is are these players ever going to play basketball because they're always injured and something's always going on. Of course, this tier list is assuming health, and I think that was only 4 seasons ago now. I think that Paul George was top 3 in MVP. I don't think he's regressed a ton since then. I do think he's like 32, 33. He is getting older, but I think, he's one of those players whose game I think will hold up to a certain amount. He's a tall shooting guard, He's like 6'7", 6'8". He's traditionally kind of a small forward, but that team runs big.
Yeah.
Um, so and he's been a good defender pretty much all of his career as well. I think I look at this tier list that we have in front of us, and I think, assuming health, Paul George, that's not a player. Paul George. Paul George clearly is at least an A tier player. That's what my brain jumps to. It's tough because I'm looking at Anthony Edwards, and I think, yeah, Anthony Edwards can definitely have a better season than Paul George. I look at DeJounte, and I think, no, that guy's not going to have a better season than Paul George. So that's naturally where I want to slot him. Um, do I think Desmond Bane and Tyrese Maxey can make that jump and have a better season? Yes, but I think DeJounte is better now than Tyrese Maxey and Desmond Bane, so it's difficult. But I think he's somewhere on the A tier. What do you think?
I like your assessment. I was probably gonna put him like I was thinking in front of Tyrese, but now I'm thinking in front of DeJounte, like you suggested, just because of his, his ability. And so many of these players that are playing now really do look up to his game and kind of emulate that. And considering health, of course, like and that he plays, which is what we all want. And I have seen him play a few times. He's hard to stop.
Mhm.
These other players are a little bit shorter. Other teams do have ways to stop him. Paul George, not a lot of players and a lot of teams have people that can stop him. So um, for next year, I am fine with where he is right now behind Anthony Edwards because um, of his. I think Anthony Edwards is taking that jump, whereas Paul George is going to be solid how he's been the last
Right.
few years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the age matters. If we're talking prime Paul George, that's probably an S tier player.
Yeah. And another player I think is very interesting and has an opportunity to jump
I'm excited about
this
this one.
year. Yeah, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
Very one of I know one of Damon's favorite players, talked about in the Suns. One of the parts we liked about watching the Suns, him and Cam Johnson, just great role player, doing their great defender, great 3-point shooter. On the Nets has really blossomed into being more of a number one, number two option.
So good the
And
second half of
saying
the season.
yeah, instead of being behind Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and whatnot. Or I mean, he was traded for, so never mind. So not behind Kevin Durant. But anyways, I like Mikal Bridges a lot. Where he fits in this list is so tough for me because I think he's like A tier, but we have 5 and A tier already.
Yeah.
So it's like um the only reason why I would maybe put him in front of like Tyrese and Desmond is because he is the number one option on the Nets right now. Whereas I probably put Ja above Desmond and I put Embiid above Tyrese is just impact, on the game. But projecting like next year, considering everything we know and like the teams that they're going to be on, I probably this A tier is going to kill me. I don't,
I make
you know,
can
yeah,
I
yeah. What do you
throw
think? What
something
do
in
you think?
here? So I'm looking
Yeah.
at this. I kind of want to demote DeJounte back to the B tier below Tyrese Maxey and Desmond Bane just because I think both of them can make a jump. And I feel like the Hawks will kind of be the same. um,
I agree with you, and I was thinking this whole time like Dejounte's a little high. I was thinking, but then you mentioned like when you're trying to fit Paul George somewhere, so I was like, okay, he probably wants him there, so I wasn't gonna bring it up, but you brought it up, so
but what I was going to say is I think based on the second half of the season we saw with the Brooklyn Nets as Mikal Bridges as a primary option, I
yeah,
think he really shined in that role.
yeah,
I think he will continue to shine in that role. I think the Nets, who do not have their first round pick because they traded it to the Rockets in the James Harden trade, have no reason to rebuild, even though they clearly are not contenders, but there's no reason to tank when you don't have your own pick. So
right.
I think they're going to go out there and try to win to their best ability. I think Mikal Bridges has taken a jump. I want to put him next to Paul George in the A tier.
I'm fine with that because he is like going to be the primary. Tyrese is like secondary. Desmond Bain will be second. So
And I mean, he to me is basically doing what OG does on an even more extreme level,
would you say a tier above?
a tier above. Wow,
Yeah, you
wow.
like that? Well, let's talk about someone who's probably a tier
What?
above Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, one of the more controversial players in the modern NBA, known a lot for separate off-court things. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about his on-the-court ability, and on-the-court ability, one of, if not the greatest handler of the basketball of all time, and that is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, a crucial part of the 2016 champion Cavs team. And since then, it's been a little rocky. He kind of announced he wanted his own team, went to the Celtics, didn't work out, went to the Nets, did not work out. Now he's here in Dallas. He just signed a contract in the offseason. Oh, my voice started acting up. Um, but yeah, when Kyrie is healthy and on the court, really hard to stop him. He can kind of just get to wherever he wants. He can score from anywhere on the court. His defense is probably lackluster. But I think his offensive game really makes up for it. I think he's one of the best offensive players on this list for sure. And based on what we have on the list, I'd probably slot him here in the S tier, probably in between Donovan Mitchell and Jaylen Brown. Probably a better player than
Interesting.
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
I don't
you
think
know,
he'll regress that much.
yeah,
He's like 30, 31.
yeah.
But I don't
I
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was thinking probably a little bit behind Jaylen Brown just because he's younger, but Kyrie Irving has proven himself he's going to be the same like player that he has been consistent as long as on the court, given in health and whatnot. Um, I do like that placement for that reason. And we have our very last pick, starting shooting guard for the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans legend, Herb Jones, someone that we've talked about a bit. We like a lot. Very good at what he does. Young too. Pelicans have him a great contract. He's definitely a bright part of their future. Great role player. Is he going to be more than that in his career? I don't know, but he is damn good at what he does. Great defender. That wingspan is tough to beat. He's going to make those threes. And it's tough because I want to put him. I mean, I'm looking at other like kind of role players that we have, like we were talking about. Like that's like in the middle of the sea, like KCP, Buddy Hield, and Klay
Yeah.
Thompson.
I don't think
But
he's that level yet. He's
yeah,
good, but I don't think
yeah,
he's like I
that's
feel
what
like
I'm.
KCP and Buddy Hield are so good at their roles.
Yes, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out where he would fit, but then I'm like, okay, is he at the beginning of D tier?
Everything
But
C tier and below stresses me out.
I'm stressed out because like obviously I like the thing is like if we just want to move somebody around, it would be Austin Reeves to B tier, but I don't even think that.
That sounds like
Like
a
I'm just saying,
crime.
like I know exactly. I'm telling you, like so. What if we like? Okay, let's just put him somewhere because we have to figure out S tier and we have to
Yeah,
figure out A and everything. So
yeah.
what if we put Herb at like the end of C and then just move things around and go from
Okay.
there?
All
Okay.
right, let's try to figure this out.
And now let's do some. We're gonna okay. So we are gonna do
This is
some.
so hard.
What you're cutting the cutting room floor, and that's not the expression. There's some cleaning up real quick.
Talking about.
The cutting room floor. And so we have 4 people in S tier. We
I think,
need to put one.
yeah, I think if we want to go ahead and put Jalen Green right from the D tier to the S tier, that makes the most sense to me as a Houston Rocket fan.
Yeah,
Um,
the fact that you do have like 4 of his jerseys.
I have I have one Jalen Green jersey. It's behind me on the wall. I don't own another Jalen Green jersey. Uh,
um,
okay, so in our S tier right now we have Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, Jalen Brown. I'm fine with all those players. The A tier is where we need to promote from, obviously. Anthony
Yeah.
Edwards, Paul George, Mikal Bridges, Tyrese Maxey, Desmond Bain. As we have it laid out right now, Anthony Edwards is at the front, meaning he would be the person that's promoted. And I think I agree with that. He was an all-star last year. I think he makes a bigger jump this year. I think the meshing with Cat and Rudy makes more sense. I think the team flows a little better. I think and he's coming right off of FIBA USA basketball. I think he's coming in ready to play. He's probably already tired of this Timberwolves narrative of, oh my God, Cat and Rudy are not going to work together, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, well, I'm Anthony Edwards, so who
Yeah.
cares? Um,
Uh,
yeah.
I agree. I agree with you. And I like that he is taking control of that narrative and he's not letting it lead the team. Like he is his own player. He is going to be the best that he can, and he's going to be even less selfish than he was like coming into the NBA. He's better already at driving, shooting, everything, and everyone else in the A tier is, I think, they're going to be better, but they're not going to make that jump. And Anthony Edwards, I think, really has that potential next year to do that. And then that being said, so now in A tier we have 4, and B tier we have 4, and we still have 7 in the C tier because it's so hard. I really, in
I really
complete
think there's a fall
honesty,
off.
there is no one in the C tier I want to put in the B tier. Like I like
Yeah,
maybe you can
I'd
argue
agree.
B into A tier, but I do not argue anybody into B tier. As much as I love Austin Reeves, KCP, Buddy Hield, like I
Okay, you
just
skipped right over Tyler Hero. You said
yeah,
no Tyler Hero.
I did. I don't I like him, but not like I don't
uh,
consider him B tier. Like I don't consider any of them B tier. I
I
just
mean,
don't.
originally we were gonna have our 6x5. It doesn't have to be that. Yeah, it can be less than that. That's okay.
As long as you can handle it, because I don't mind. But I really think it makes a statement that this is what it has ended up to look like, because as it is right now, I have no complaints. As I know, like there's a little bit of talk about maybe moving people around, but where they are in the tier, like what tier they are in, I'm fine with. Maybe placement within that tier, but where they are in the tier, I'm totally fine with. You know?
Yes, I've been thinking about, will Mikal Bridges be better than Paul George next season for a while in my brain. And I feel
Interesting,
like,
because I'm not even talking about the B A tier right
yeah, I know. I like that.
now.
Like we were talking about the A tier, and I was like, that's a thought lingering on my mind. Um, I feel like I'm underrating Paul George in my head when I say that though, because when he's healthy, he's really good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but Mikal Bridges was also so good after he got traded.
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I'm looking at B tier. I, I feel like saying DeJounte is the best player on this tier is accurate. Um, do I think he's comparable with Bane and Maxey? We kind of talked about he was ahead of them earlier, so
Right.
but I'm fine with him leading the B tier instead. Because I think that makes sense. When I look here at the C tier,
I want your honest opinion of where you think Austin Reeves should be, because I know that's what you're thinking. So I just want. I don't. The thing is, I just don't know if you've watched him enough. Is the thing, because
yeah,
you don't watch Lakers games,
I
so
think the
like,
thing I'm underrating about Austin Reeves is his ability to dribble. I think he can dribble more than I probably am giving him credit for. I feel like he's run some point guard, like not like position wise, but I just mean bring the ball up the floor and kind of
yeah,
initiating the offense. I think he's probably done that a little more than I would imagine. Um, yeah, it's tough. It's tough, especially because we're again projecting, and it's like, oh, are you gonna be better? Like, I feel like the Tyler Hero thing is a whole other thing. They're two completely different players, so I feel like it's
exactly. It
it's
really
really hard to
is.
compare them. I really like okay, if you take Tyler Hero, Anthony Simons, Terry Rozier, Jordan Poole, even Jalen Green, Jaden Ivey to an extent, um, they're all like score first, okay playmakers, not great defender shooting guards, and I think Tyler Hero is clearly the best out of all of them. Um, whereas
Sure.
Austin
Yeah, yeah,
Reeves
yeah.
doesn't play like that, so it's hard to make that comparison.
Yeah.
And then the other people after Tyler Hero on this tier, KCP, Buddy Hield, Clay Thompson, are all completely different too. Like they're all really good role players, not necessarily ball handlers. So it's really tough. I like honestly, I feel like it's so hard.
What about here? Maybe I don't know how you think, but maybe what if you put Herb Jones at the front of D tier? Because he also doesn't really fit with any of those others.
Yeah, I don't think he's as good at what he does as
Right.
KCP,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I also don't think Clay is that good anymore. But I have a really negative opinion of Clay.
Yeah, I just like I get like I understand that assessment as well, but I just like I guess we're trying to be objective, right? Like
Like I think Anthony Simons is going to be have a better year than Clay. I feel like that's obvious to me in my brain. I feel like Jordan Poole might even have a better year than Clay because he's going to have so much opportunity in Washington. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
Terry
yeah.
Rozier, like all these guys. I'm like, oh my god,
No,
it's tough.
I what you want to put Clay? Let's put
What?
tough takes. Let's put Clay at the front of F tier. um,
Oh, from C to F is crazy.
look, it's I was kind of kidding, but
Yes. You said it. It must be done.
no, I was kidding, but
Like, is Clay gonna have a better year than he's probably gonna have a better year than Herb Jones. Um, that I could. Oh man, where do I
but now
put?
we just moved two down to the D tier. We didn't.
Well, okay, I'm thinking all of these players that play like the exact same player. I feel like it's just better if they're together in my brain. But is it better in front or behind these guys that are so good at the role is the question. You really like Austin Reeves, and I know you really like KCP, so you probably I feel like do you think KCP is better than Tyler Hero?
I would say no, just because Tyler Hero does have a higher ceiling. Like KCP is really good at what he is now, and that's what he will be. You know, and in that regard, I would put Anthony Simons above KCP and Buddy Hield, but it's like, you know, it's hard to tell because I don't really know
I
what.
do think these two guys are definitely better than these two guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Tyler Hero and Anthony Simons are definitely better than Jordan Poole and Terry Rozier in terms of
yeah,
opportunity and ceiling and all that, and projecting for their seasons next year.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just weird to me because I'm looking at those two, and then I have essentially four good role players in KCP, Buddy Hield, Clay Thompson, Herbert Jones.
Right.
And then I have two guys again, Jordan Poole, Terry Rozier, and then it's three guys that are all like up and coming kind of wings. I do think Devin Vassell is probably worse than everybody here, and I wouldn't mind putting him in the F tier.
Yeah, that's you've watched him more than me, and I like Devin Vassell, but you know, I do. That's essentially it looks the same to me. You know what I mean? Like that is
For
a
the sake of evening out the list, you know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
this is really tough. Okay, let's reset. Let's reset. Let's go back from S tier. Let's look at two tiers at a time. Let's say S tier, A tier. Does anyone want to move up? No. Okay. A tier, B tier. Anyone move up? No. All right.
Okay,
Makes
and
sense.
let's do this fast.
Fast, and this will be our recap. So we're not going to do a recap at the end. So make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. S tier: Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards. Lock it
Cool.
in. I think it's good.
Yes, me too.
A tier: Paul George, Mikal Bridges, Tyrese Maxey, Desmond Bain. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too. And yeah, and then we're looking at B tier as well, right? And B tier is so DeJounte Murray, OG, Zach Levine, Josh Giddey. Do we see anyone next year making a jump to A tier?
No.
I don't either. So it's like, okay. So then we look at C tier, right? Let's look at C tier. We got Austin Reeves, Tyler Hero, Anthony Simons, KCP, Buddy Hield. Do we see any of them making a jump to B tier objectively? And
You're gonna hate my answer.
you're gonna say yes, but who are you gonna say? Tyler Hero?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
I just don't I don't see it.
All right. Well, we'll leave Tyler Hero in the C tier then. Um, I I did want to ask you real quick.
Yeah.
The B tier order is throwing me off a little bit.
Okay.
DeJounte, OG, Zach LaVine, Giddy. The person that's throwing me off the most is Zach LaVine. I feel like he's proven it more than all of these players.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm struggling with. What do you think?
I say put him atop of B because I agree. I mean, I think who has a higher chance to be an all-star this year than anyone on that? I think it's Zach compared,
Okay. Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to, yeah, you know what I mean? So just that alone, I think is reason enough to put him in front.
Yeah. If you can't tell, we really value defense on this podcast, which is why like players like OG Anunoby are B tier and players like Mikal Bridges are A tier when other tier lists may not have them that high, but that really good defense matters.
It does matter. It's winning
And
basketball.
that's why Austin Reeves is the head of C tier.
Hey, whoa! It's a damn good argument, man.
um yeah, C tier, these guys, I mean, two of them are good shot creators that have a high ceiling. Three of them are good role players. And then Austin Reeves can also dribble, so that's why he's at the front, I guess. I'm okay with it. I'm
It's
fine.
not I admit it's not perfect, but none of these really can be, you
Yeah.
know. So,
Um.
but what is perfect is Klay Thompson at the front of D tier,
Ah.
followed by Herb Jones, Jordan Poole, Terry Rozier, Jalen Green, and Jaden Ivey. Um, the
This is tough.
it's tough too. It's a little throwing me off too because I'm like, it's tough because like I kind of personally, I think oh no, I don't, I guess. I was gonna say like I was gonna say Terry Rozier at the end of D tier, but like I feel like he'll still have a good season. Like
I I I was thinking, man, should Jalen Green be at the start of D tier?
um
Like, can I see him having a better season than Terry Rozier? Yes.
yeah, I can see him having
Nice.
a season in Jordan Poole because Rockets are trying to do something. Herb Jones is good at what he does. He's not gonna be a primary,
Right.
he's not a primary anything on the Pelicans.
Right.
Clay is what I'm having trouble with because he might be better than Jalen Green.
Yeah.
Because he is like he's a third option on that team,
Right.
even with Chris Paul on that team now. So I could see Jalen Green in front of Herb Jones.
Cool.
Um, but if you want to argue Jalen Green above Klay
Nope.
Thompson, I'll hear it.
Nope. I'm good.
Cool.
It's already 11:35.
Yeah,
I,
I
I think
figured.
I think we were supposed to stop at 11. So
Yeah, we were, but it's okay because we're doing what we love. But let's round this out with the F tier. Who do we have?
yeah, so F tier we have Devin Vassell, Jordan Clarkson, Kevin Herter, Quentin Grimes, Jalen Suggs, Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen, Jalen Suggs, Quentin Grimes. I'm locked in as those being the worst three. I feel like there's like I'm like cool. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, really, the only thing I would maybe switch in this tier is like Kevin Herter around a little bit. Like I feel like he could be better than Jordan Clarkson. Um, I feel
uh,
like
it's
yeah,
tough. I just don't know what Jordan Clarkson's role is going to be on the Jazz
right.
next year. Like
That's the hard part.
if he's starting and he like they keep him, like I could see him being better than Kevin Herter because Kevin Herter will be what he has been the last few years. Like it's not changing.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I would say Jordan above Kevin Herter. But I wouldn't, you switch him. I'm not like, gonna die on that hill.
Yeah, I'm good though.
Yeah.
I think this is good for
Yeah,
me.
I think it's a solid list. That I think this one might have been
This
harder
was
than the point
this was
guards.
harder. This was harder than the point guards.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, the point guards, I feel like the tiers to me were very clear.
Yeah,
Um, this one is yeah, I think like S, A, and B are clear, and then after that, it was
yeah, it
it
really
was
is.
difficult.
It's all like ranking potential, you know what I
Ranking
mean?
potential against ranking like old established role players, hard.
Yeah, very hard. But yeah, that's our shooting guard, starting shooting guard tier list. Thanks for listening. If you don't agree with what we had, I know we had some like disagreements, and it's all love, and we just want to hear like what you guys think. Does Austin Reeves deserve to be that high? Should Tyler Hero be lower? Should Tyler Hero be F tier? It's just
I, I meant to download this.
um you're good. I love how everyone is seeing you download it right now too, because you're
Yeah,
still sharing your screen.
I know. I want to be sharing my screen. I want them to know that I'm downloading and saving it. Now I have stopped sharing my screen.
And, and now you
Uh,
have, and now I'm frozen, and there we go. But yeah, let us know what you thought about the tier list.
yeah, of course. Yeah, like he said, players too high, players too low, players that you either, if like Dom and I talking about Austin Reeves or Tyler Hero, whose side are you on in that debate or whatever?
That's so that says this is going to be a thing next season. It's got to be a thing. We're
It's
like,
going
oh,
to be a thing. Just
yeah.
like D'Angelo Russell or no, it was like Darius Garland and Jamal Murray last episode.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll be fun.
we'll have two
Keep it
players
fun.
every episode that were like, "You think that guy's better than that guy? That's
A little bit
crazy."
of rivalry, a little bit of healthy
Yeah,
rivalry is fun.
we'll have like
But
our starting five of our like biggest discrepancies.
that'll be fun. That'll be fun to keep up with. But
And I'm like I showed him, I'm saving these, so I
nice.
got them in the file, and we'll go back and compare them. And next time
That'll be
we'll
fun.
do next week we'll have small forwards out, so another
Look forward to
position.
that.
LeBron James SS tier probably. Um,
Jabari Smith Jr. F tier. You know,
doesn't play small forward.
I thought. Wait. Oh, Dylan Brooks.
Dylan
S tier.
Brooks, baby.
S tier. S tier, baby. But before we go, you got to shoot your shot, man.
I always am ready to shoot my shot.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, I haven't worked on this at all, so I'm not looking forward to this. Yes, I'll move my hand. So
Thank you. I was just thinking that I was literally staring at you saying it. So
all right. Here you go.
uh,
Oh, I made it. I made that one. I made that one. Let's go. Let's go. Episode 6, not 25. 6.
Oh,
Oh,
I thought you said 2 minus 5. I said
oh,
yeah, no,
you thought I
no.
made
I
on
thought
episode
you
-3.
yeah,
Oh,
which you
no, of
did.
course.
Remember when you did do that? Well,
I can't believe
okay,
I made that. Your reaction was
well,
priceless. If you're not watching this, go watch Dominiquez's reaction on
I
that. It was
actually I'm gonna
really
watch.
good.
I'm gonna watch
It
back
was
on it
really
because
good.
I was looking at the hoop,
You were
not.
so disappointed. You were so upset that I made it.
No, I'm happy for my friend.
I made it, and you just go.
I'm so sad right now. No,
Held
that
by
was
me.
great. It was so funny because it like went in, hopped up, and then went back in. It was like, damn. But that
I'm
yeah,
definitely gonna rewatch that because I wasn't really looking at it too in
that's
depth,
too
but
funny.
that was
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Well, congratulations for making it on the 6th episode. I guess whatever. But thanks for joining us. If
6
you like
times the charm.
if you liked what you heard or saw, like it, share it, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on D&D's 2-man game.
Buckets.